Hi, this is the voice, Michael Chavello. You're listening to the Premium Oddscast, hosted by leading MMA odds maker Nick Kalikas, fight scientist and author of Fightnomics, Reed Kuhn, and MMA journalist Brian Heminger. The absolute best UFC betting info, picks, statistics, and analysis from the most respected authority in mixed martial arts betting, MMAoddsbreaker.com.
Welcome to the Premium Oddscast, presented by 5 Dime Sportsbook. I'm Brian Heminger, joined today by leading mixed martial arts oddsmaker Nick Kalikas to break down this Saturday's UFC 195 event, which takes place in Las Vegas, Nevada. If you're unfamiliar with our format, myself and Nick will break down the entire fight card from top to bottom, providing extensive analysis and a pick for each fight after doing our film study for the event. Briefly looking back at our last event, we profited 4.96 units for UFC on Fox 17 after going 3-1 with our premium bets. We won our plays on Vicente Luque, Tamden McCrory, and Valentina Shevchenko, while we lost our bet on Miles Jury. We also went 1-0 on our free bets to profit 1.06 units on a parlay that included the Kowalkiewicz Marcos and Lentz Castillo over 2.5 round totals. Back to the present, UFC 195 features a 12-fight card in total and will be aired on Fight Pass, Fox Sports 1, and pay-per-view this Saturday night. Let's dive right in. Now, kicking off the preliminary card on Fight Pass is a welterweight contest between Sheldon Westcott, who is 9-3-1, and Edgar Garcia, who is 14-4. Now, Nick, where did you open this fight, and how has the public shifted things so far?
I opened Westcott minus 150 to come back on Garcia plus 110. Right now, looking over at our sponsor, 5dimes.eu. Currently, Westcott minus 160, Garcia plus 140. So not a lot of movement. Line margins have tightened up to a 20-cent line at the moment. So a little bit more support coming in on Westcott. I understand it. I'm kind of leaning his way as well. I mean, the problem here with this fight, both these guys are pretty solid, well-rounded fighters. Of course, Westcott excels more on the ground, and Garcia, in my opinion, excels more obviously on the feet as well. So you have a little bit of contrast in styles because you have Garcia as your striker, Westcott as your ground guy. Now, Westcott has a serviceable stand-up game as well, but in this case against Garcia, he doesn't really want to play that game too long because Garcia does have that kind of knockout power that can definitely end your night fast. So Westcott's going to look to take this fight to the ground, where Garcia does have some weakness for sure. I mean, he's been subbed a couple times through his career, and if you look at his last fight against Urbina, that was not a great display of submission defense, which really will hinder him in this fight if Westcott utilizes what he has in his skill set, and it is going after the takedowns and submissions here. So Garcia has to keep this fight upright. He has to keep in control. Now, he does have a decent wrestling background, so his wrestling is really not that bad. He trains at a good camp. So I think Garcia will be game enough to make at least life tough on Westcott coming in shooting for the takedowns, and he'll probably be able to avoid getting put on his back early. But as the fight goes, I think Westcott might find his spot, might get his back, and probably does sub him if he does get the opportunity here. If not, I think Garcia might actually be able to steal a decision here as well, because I think he can definitely outpoint Westcott on the feet. Again, he's going to be a little bit stronger, I think, than Westcott, and he does always have that threat of a knockout power. But it's fight IQ on both sides, and it's weakness like cardio, especially on Westcott's side. Both these guys do tend to slow down, but Westcott a little bit more, and it's really cost him. I mean, if you look at his last fight against Pollock, I mean, he was getting clipped by Pollock, and he had some problems there. So if Garcia is able to connect like that, Westcott's going to have a short night. So not much confidence here because both these guys are so defensively flawed, but I have to lean a little bit more towards Westcott. I do think that his submission game and his ground game is far superior to Garcia's, and I think he probably, at least, throughout a 3-round period, finds his way to Garcia's back or finds his way to a submission win here. So I'm going to lean a little bit more towards Westcott to get the W.
This one's definitely a battle of whether or not Sheldon Westcott can get something going in the first round or two before Edgar Garcia potentially takes over. Westcott, as everyone knows, is a guy that's full of energy early, very aggressive pursuit of takedowns, very aggressive pursuit of submissions, ground and pound, and then he runs out of steam. I mean, that's kind of how he's fought every fight in The Ultimate Fighter and then also in the UFC. And for the most part, against a lower tier competition, it works, especially, in the Canadian regional circuit and in the Ultimate Fighter against, a lot of Australian fighters. But against better competition, he has not looked as impressive. I mean, Theodorou had his way with him, And then his last fight, I thought that he would potentially get something going against Pollock, and, that was a really ugly, ugly fight. So, Westcott, it's surprising, honestly, that he's even getting the third opportunity after that last fight against Pollock was so bad. But, third time's the charm for him here. I think Edgar Garcia is a beatable opponent. Garcia is a vet. He's pretty well-rounded, but he does have flaws. He's hittable. He is susceptible to submissions. So if Westcott's aggressive, he could hurt him on the feet. He can take him down. He can submit him. The problem, of course, is if Westcott can't get any of that going, then Garcia's probably going to be able to brawl with him on the feet and maybe get the better of striking exchanges. He does have a much higher pace on the feet. And then once Westcott slows down and gasses, then Garcia can take over and potentially finish this. It's all about whether or not Westcott can either get the early finish, or if Westcott can win the first 2 rounds and then hold on in the third and not get finished. So I think when you think about it that way, then you have to favor Westcott. Garcia is a game veteran, but I don't think he's that impressive overall. He didn't look that great in his original UFC stint. He didn't look good in his most recent fight in the UFC against a guy in Hector Urbina who's not particularly great either. So I expect Westcott to get the better of Garcia, but stranger things have happened. But my pick is going to be Sheldon Westcott. Now dropping down to the bantamweight division, we have Joe Soto, who is 15-4, taking on Michinori Tanaka, who is 10-1. Now, Nick, what's the MMA oddsmaker's perspective on this one?
I opened Tanaka -135, the comeback on Soto -105. Right now it's exactly pick 'em -110 either way. Again, line margins have tightened up a little bit. And this is a very competitive fight, so I'm not really surprised that it is a true pick 'em fight right now. I mean, Tanaka, starting with him, he's coming back from a 9-month suspension after a loss to Kang. So he's been out for over a year now for testing positive for banned substance. I believe it was due to some allergy medicine or something along those lines. So it wasn't anything crazy, but still, Tanaka with the time off. At age 25, though, I think that it's not going to hinder him that much. I don't think we're going to see a lot of ring rust from him. And he's a very talented prospect. I mean, in my mind, he's one of the best prospects at 135 that we've seen in a long time. The guy's more known for his ground game. I mean, tremendous on the ground. He has a well-rounded skill set overall because he's not even that bad on the feet. He's able to control you, though, on the ground. He's able to scramble and reverse things so beautifully. Even if you take him down and you put him on his back, you can't keep him there that long in most cases. Now, that Kang fight was fantastic, and it really showed both guys how great they are on the ground. And I think Kang was able to utilize his length a little bit and his strength, and was able to do just enough to control Tanaka, and that's what got him the win here. I think Soto isn't going to have that same skill set. Obviously, it's a little bit different even with his frame. He's not going to be able to do the things that Kang was successful at with Tanaka, even though Soto does have a really good ground game. So I think Soto's going to want to keep this fight on the feet. On the feet, it's going to be close. You give the stand-up edge, a little bit more of the boxing edge to Soto for sure, even though Tanaka can't hang. The problem with Soto is I'm not really that confident in his chin. I mean, he is coming off of knockout loss, of course, which was a little bit surprising considering that he's coming off actually back-to-back knockout losses. And his fight with Dillashaw, you can understand. I mean, Dillashaw is a champion right now. He's the man. He survived, though, to the 5th round of that fight before he eventually got finished. With Burchak in his last fight, though, he was able to get him out of there early. So Soto has shown a suspect chin even before he entered the UFC, and then losing back-to-back TKO or KO losses, I should say, is not really a good thing. Now, Tanaka, again, more of a ground fighter, so he should be safe, you would think. But it's one of those situations that you never know. I mean, Tanaka is not that bad on the feet either. He could clip Soto's chin and put him out. That being said, I still think Soto has the advantage standing and Tanaka will have the advantage on the ground, even though these guys are both so well-rounded. Because Soto truly is a savvy vet. I mean, he does have a well-rounded skill set as well. So I expect this to be a war back and forth everywhere the fight takes place. But I think Tanaka's ground game is what's going to win it for him. I think he ends up getting top position. I think he ends up fending off Soto's submission attempts. And I think he ends up just being a little bit more flashy and impressing the judges more so, and possibly even maybe getting finished along the way. But I think more so than not, we're going to probably see Tanaka winning this fight by close competitive decision, but one that he should win. So I am going to pick Tanaka to pull off the win over Soto.
Tanaka has been one of my favorite prospects in the UFC bantamweight division for a long time. After sitting out the entire 2015, he's finally back here right in the first event of 2016. And he brings a very interesting skill set to the table. He is one of the best grapplers in the bantamweight division. very good transitions, great sweeps, good submission attempts, just an extremely exciting ground fighter. Now on the feet, Tanaka's not particularly impressive, but he can hold his own with most people. Soto is a pretty good technical boxer, but I mean, it's not like he's a world beater on the feet either. So I think what's going to happen here is Soto will probably get a little bit of the better of the stand-up on the feet. And then when this fight goes to the ground, I just see Tanaka taking over. Tanaka's issue in his last fight against Kang was just a little bit bigger and stronger than him, and he was able to get the advantageous position, and that still ended up being a crazy close fight. It was one of the best fights of 2014 if you haven't seen it. And Soto, while he's been knocked out in 3 of his 4 career losses, you have to remember, Eddie Yagan was able to submit him. And Eddie Yagan's ground game is not anywhere close to Tanaka's. So I think if Tanaka can get a good position on Soto, then I can see Soto getting in some serious trouble on the canvas. Tanaka is no joke there. He's been probably fired up and training for a full year here, and I expect him to go in there and really try to take care of business. Now, Soto is a competent ground fighter. He does a lot of grappling tournaments and stuff. He trains very well on the ground. He's capable there, but I just think Tanaka's better. So I expect this fight to go to the ground. I expect Soto to be on his back for the majority of those exchanges on the ground, and I expect Tanaka to either win by submission or win by decision due to a superior position on the canvas. So my pick is going to be Michinori Tanaka. Now moving on to the lightweight division, we have Dustin Poirier, who is 18-4, taking on Joe Duffy, who is 14-1. Now, Nick, where did you open this fight, and how has the public shifted things so far?
I opened Duffy minus 195, the comeback on Poirier plus 155. Right now, looking over 5 times, it's Duffy minus 190, comeback on Poirier plus 165. So not a lot of change, although early on, more action did come in Duffy's way, and now we're starting to see some action back on Poirier. That's why the line kind of moved up a little bit. Now it's come back down to closer to the opener. So there's a lot of split opinions out there for sure on this fight, and I understand. I mean, both these guys, again, talking about well-rounded skill sets, they have it all. They're capable of ending fights on the feet. They have really good striking power to knock people out. Both of them have really a diverse striking attack as well. And then on the ground, both of them have really slick submission games. I mean, they're capable of hitting subs from top, from bottom, and they're very smart and with fight IQ and the way they kind of go about setting up their techniques. So this is a really, in my opinion, it's almost like a coin flip type of fight here. I know that we have to lean a little bit more towards Duffy as far as being a little bit more solid, I think, as far as chin goes, but he is coming off of a concussion, which is kind of scary. I mean, this fight did get postponed because Duffy had to pull out. He got hurt in training, so that in the back of my mind does not sit well. And Poirier at 155, coming back to lightweight, he's looked great. I mean, he's looked like he's just happier. He has a better attitude. I mean, his chin, I think, is going to hold up a little bit better as well without the drastic weight cut. Life is good for Poirier right now, and he has a new division that he can kind of work up the ladder and prove that he belongs towards the top of that division. That's the kind of attitude Poirier has. So in my mind, it is truly a coin flip type of fight because both these guys are so well-rounded, but I trust Poirier just a little bit more at this point. I know Duffy, in my opinion, he's got the ability on the ground to submit a lot of people, but his ground defense is still a little sketchy in my opinion. He hasn't been tested as much as I'd like to see. And Poirier, if it does get to the ground, I mean, Poirier is going to be the one that has potential enough to submit him on the floor as well. So Poirier has an advantage, I think, almost everywhere in this fight. So I'm going to lean with him. I think it is going to be a fantastic fight. Both these guys, again, are finishers, so it wouldn't shock me whichever way or however this fight turned out, but you got to lean a little bit more towards Poirier, I think, in my opinion, at this point. So that's the way I'm going to go.
Now, I had a more thorough breakdown of this fight the last time they were scheduled to compete because Duffy ended up pulling out like just a couple days before the event. And in that fight, I picked Poirier. I still feel that way, especially now that Duffy's coming off of a concussion. I mean, that just makes it even more likely. I still feel that Poirier can connect. He's the more powerful striker of the two. And if he connects with something, I think Duffy can get in serious trouble. And if it goes to the ground, Duffy's a little too content to be on his back. He is a very active submission guy, but I think Poirier would be the guy in top position. And Poirier's no slouch on the canvas either. Now, on the feet, there's Duffy's a little bit more diverse with his attack. He can mix it up to the body. He has good kicks. So he's going to be dangerous there. And he probably is the more technical boxer. But Poirier packs so much power that one punch could definitely change it. And even though Poirier's chin is a little bit worse, I think the fact that he hits so much harder than Duffy could make the difference. So I picked Poirier before. I'm sticking with my pick. I'm even a little bit more confident than last time. So I'm all aboard the Dustin Poirier upset train. Now kicking off the preliminary card on Fox Sports 1, we have Scott Holtzman, who is 8-0, taking on Drew Dober, who is 15-7 with 1 no contest. Now, Nick, what's the MMA oddsmaker's perspective on this one?
I up in Holtzman minus 175. The comeback on Dober plus 135. And right now, it's Holtzman minus 160. The comeback on Dober is plus 140. So line margins tighten up a little bit. 2 action coming in on this fight as well. It is a tough one. Holtzman's kind of, at age 32, it's hard to even call him a prospect, but, he's one of these guys that has been around the scene for a little while, fighting on Access TV cards, and he's been doing really well. The guy, he's training at MMA Lab, so he's got a great camp behind him, and he's got another well-rounded skill set type of game. Everywhere the fight takes place, Holtzman's game. He's got some very nice speed with his boxing. He's got good kicks to go along with it, good footwork. Nice offensive wrestling as far as his, ground game goes. He's got strong ground and pound from the top. Nice use of elbows standing in on the ground. So Holtzman is a very tough out, and he's got a good fight IQ, and he's got pretty decent cardio to go along with it. Now, he is taking this fight on short notice. He's stepping in for Coke, so Dober has a little bit more time to prepare. I don't think it's going to bother Holtzman too much because he's typically in really good shape. But the problem here is, Holtzman, if you look at his resume, it's not bad. It's pretty decent, but he hasn't faced the level of competition that Dober's faced. And honestly, he hasn't faced a fighter like Dober. Dober is a very strong, talented fighter in his own right. I know that he's kind of run into a little bit of unfortune so far throughout his UFC career. And I really do believe that he's better than that. He's better than what he showed. That Escudero fight and his last fight I was shocked that it ended that quick. Not that Escudero won. that's not really that shocking, but the way he went about it. So that was definitely a bad loss for Dober. I know he's going to want to kind of redo, in people's minds at least, to kind of perform, come here, show up and perform that he's a lot better than what he showed in his last fight against Escudero. So Dober, physically strong again. Like I said, he's got knockout power on the feet. He does push forward. He's got a good ground game. He's got good submission skill. He's not the easiest guy to control on the ground, and he's got a good submission game to go along with it. So Dober is a tough out, and I do believe that he's a tough out for Holtzman here as well. I think we're going to see an ultra competitive fight, another type of fight that hits the scorecards. And it's a tough one to pick, honestly. I've been kind of going back and forth on this fight as well, because at times I think Dober does leave some openings along the way that you can steal a decision from him. But until Holtzman proves to me that he can kind of step up in competition, I have to lean a little bit more towards Dober in this fight as well. Again, I think that he's just going to be a little bit too much for Holtzman, because Holtzman's not going to be able to bully him around like he's bullied some of his other opponents in the past. And I think that Dober's fight IQ at this point and the people that he's faced along the way has made him a step above Holtzman at this time. So not a real confident pick, but I am going to lean a little bit more towards Dober to get the win over Holtzman. It seems like this is a spot for Holtzman to kind of keep on climbing up the ladder, but I think he's going to have a setback here, and I think Dober's going to pull off the slight upset win.
And I'm going to slightly disagree here. I do think this fight's going to be close, and 100% is going to boil down to whether or not Scott Holtzman can get this fight to the ground. Hot Sauce, as Holtzman is known, trains out of the MMA Lab, so he's going to be extremely well prepared and have a great game plan for this fight. And Drew Dober has been a little bit susceptible to superior ground fighters. You saw that in the Leandro Silva fight, where he was starting to get outgrappled a little bit. And obviously, Efrain Esquerra was able to clip him a little bit and then catch him in a guillotine choke. Now, Holtzman is going to need takedowns. He can't just clip him on the feet and catch him in a choke. Holtzman really isn't that impressive of a stand-up fighter. Dober will be the better boxer, the more active striker on the feet. And if this fight goes to the ground, Holtzman should be in top position. Holtzman will try to wear him down with ground and pound and then work for submissions. That's really the name to his game. And if he's not able to do that, he's going to lose. Drew Dober will probably win a decision or potentially knock him out. Holtzman was not particularly impressive in that UFC debut against Christodoulou. I thought that he would put him away a lot quicker, especially because Christodoulou is not exactly UFC caliber. And it took Holtzman until late in the third round before he finally got that submission. And this is definitely a much tougher fight for him. And honestly, if he does not get it to the floor, he's going to lose, but I think he can, so I'm going to pick him, but I'm not crazy confident with this, and Drew Dober potentially could pull this one out, but I'm going to stick with my guns here and go with Scott Holtzman. Now, dropping down to the women's strawweight division, we have Justine Kish, who is 4-0, taking on Nina Ansaroff, who is 6-4. Now, Nick, where did you open this fight, and how has the public shifted things so far?
I opened Kish minus 215, the comeback on Ansaroff plus 165. Right now, looking over at 5 dimes, it is minus 265 for Kish. The comeback on Ansaroff is plus 225. So more support coming in on Kish. Not really that surprising. I mean, if you look at the records, I mean, Ansaroff is 6-4, but you got to look a little bit beyond that. And of course, Kish is the undefeated prospect that has a little bit more hype at 4-0. So not surprised just at the quick glance at what you're getting here. But really, Kish, I'm glad they brought her in to the UFC because she was a highly touted prospect. She was actually supposed to compete in the Ultimate Fighter season when they were fighting for the strawweight championship there, but she was unable to compete because she hurt her knee, and that's kind of sidelined her until now. So glad she is finally making her official UFC debut. She actually holds a win over Randa Marcos, which is very impressive at an RFA event as well. So Kish is legit. And it would have been interesting to see her compete on that show and see what she was able to do and if she was possibly able to win it. I mean, obviously it would have been a tough task, but still, she's definitely right in the mix at 115. Now, starting with Kish, really, she's a physically strong fighter. She has a Muay Thai striking background, a very accomplished kickboxer. So she is a striking-based fighter with some wrestling and ground game to go along with it. So she's got a nice clinch game. She utilizes her knees and elbows well. She loves to push forward, has some power with her kicks and her punches, and really is effective in their striking. Now, Ansaroff, on the other hand, also a striking type of stylist. I mean, she has a Taekwondo background, very good striker. She mixes in strong kicks. She's got good footwork movement, has some takedown skill, and actually decent takedown defense as well. So you kind of have a lot of similarities between these two ladies. But I think what's going to happen here is I think Kish is going to be the one pushing forward a little bit more and controlling the fight. I think she's just a step ahead of Ansaroff overall. And again, I think she's just a little bit physically stronger here. So we should see a battle. I mean, I think we're going to see a pretty close competitive fight. And you cannot sleep on Ansaroff because I think she has a point to prove here. She wants to get some of that respect back. And if anything, I mean, her kryptonite last time against Lima was getting put on her back and getting controlled in a very close competitive type of decision. Against Kish, if you're a striker, you want to face another striker and basically prove that you're the better striker. So she has an opportunity here. I just don't think she's going to get the job done here. I think that Kish is going to make an her official UFC debut, a successful one, and win a competitive but clear decision here. So it's hard not to go against Kish here. And I think really in the strawweight division, she could definitely make some waves and make some noise and climb up that ladder and possibly end up getting a title shot at some point. So my official pick is going to be Kish.
Justine Kish is definitely a sleeper in the women's strawweight division. Now, obviously, she was on the Ultimate Fighter Season 20. She could have been a contender there, but she got hurt, knee injury. She hasn't fought in quite a while now. And she's finally making her UFC debut here against Ansaroff. And this is definitely a winnable fight. Now, Ansaroff is no slouch. She's one of the bigger women's strawweights. She's fought at higher weight classes throughout her career. And I think that Ansaroff potentially could bully her a little bit. But that being said, Kish, in my opinion, is the better overall striker, even though Ansaroff, calls herself more of a stand-up fighter as well. Now, Ansaroff comes from more of a Taekwondo background. She has very good kicks, very heavy kicks. So if Kish just gets into a pure kicking game, she could get herself in a little bit of trouble. But thankfully, that's not all of what Kish is about. Kish is a little bit more of a Muay Thai stylist. She's very good with knees, very good with elbows. If she can get up close, has some pretty good pop in her punches as well. She's probably one of the more powerful women's strawweights out there. So I would expect that if they get into a firefight, that it's going to be Kish who's going to be landing the higher volume, going to be closing the distance a little bit more, and then potentially getting a knockout. I just think Kish is a little bit more diverse, and I expect her to get the better of Ansaroff. The only real question mark here for me is that Kish is coming off of a long injury layoff. I mean, knee injuries are no joke, although we've seen people come off of knee injuries and look amazing, like look at Conor McGregor. So it just depends on how well she did her rehab and everything, but she trains at a good gym with Blackhouse. Ansaroff trains at a good gym too with ATT, but we already saw a little bit of what Ansaroff's about with her loss in her UFC debut to Lima. And I don't think that she can present enough of a threat on the feet to Kish to pick up this win. I expect Kish to control the pace and land the heavier shots and either win by decision or potentially by knockout. So my pick is going to be Justine Kish. Now moving up to the welterweight division, we have Kyle Noke, who is 22-7-1, taking on Alex Morono, who is 11-3. Now, Nick, what's the MMA oddsmaker's perspective on this one?
I opened Noke minus 270, the comeback of Morono plus 190. Right now, looking over at 5 times, it's Noke minus 300, the comeback of Morono is plus 250. So a little bit more support coming in Noke's way, more parlay action and whatnot as well. So nothing too drastic, though. What a change it was, though. Noke was originally supposed to fight Gaslam, and he was a decent underdog in that fight. Now he's a solid favorite against Morono, and rightfully so. I mean, it's a big change. So I think Noke kind of caught a break, even though he's performed relatively well recently, especially in his last fight against Sabata. That was really impressive. It was almost surprising how he was able to dispose of Sabata that quick. But getting into this fight here against Morono's a pretty complete fighter. He's able to knock you out. He's able to submit his opponents as well. Everywhere the fight takes place, he's game. But the problem is, on the feet, I mean, he tends to get outpointed at the times. I mean, he's not the fastest striker in the world, but he does have some sneaky good power. So he's always dangerous, and he's got some good accuracy to go along with it as well. So he mixes things up well enough, and he is dangerous, no doubt about it. He does have that knockout power. And on the ground, again, I think the bad thing is he lets people take him down and control him a little bit, but he does have a sub game, especially from top position. He's got some ground and pound, and he's capable of pulling off a sub as well. So he's a very complete fighter in all aspects of the game. He has pretty decent defense. He has really shown a lot of toughness throughout his career as well. So he's not an easy guy to finish along the way. The problem for him in this matchup is he is taking this fight on shorter notice. He's fighting Noke, which is, again, I think he's kind of reinvented himself a little bit. He's looking a little bit more motivated. He's been looking pretty good his last couple fights. And I think in this fight, he can at least outpoint Morono. So if Noke does not get caught by anything from Morono on the feet, or make him a huge mistake on the ground, I think Noke is at least going to outpoint him, because I think Noke has the wrestling advantage in this fight. He's going to have the more, I think, diverse striking attack, and I think he's got 4 inches of pure reach as well to go along with it. So I think he's going to be able to outpoint Morono on the feet. He's going to be able to land some. He's going to have to be careful though, again, because Morono has that knockout power. And then on the ground, I think if Noke wants to go for a takedown or two along the way, he should be able to get it, because his wrestling is a tad bit underrated at times, and I think he will have the advantage here as well. So it's Noke's fight really to win or lose in this spot. But I mean, laying juice out there for those of you guys that are betting this fight, I'd be a little cautious, because 3-1 against Morono, it might not be the smartest thing. But then again, I do think Noke comes away with the win here. So I am going to pick Noke to make Morono's UFC debut not a successful one.
This fight is pretty straightforward. Noke might have had his hands full with Gastelum, but against Morono's really more of a lighter version of Kyle Noke. Morono's about 3 inches shorter, 3 inches in reach, shorter legs, you name it. The only real advantage Morono has heading into this fight is he's a little bit younger. Morono was the legacy welterweight champion, but if you watch his fights, he's not particularly athletic, he's not very fast, and his other big issue is he gets put on his back in just about every single one of his fights in his career. So if Noke wants to, I think he can bully him around a little bit. And as you saw in his last fight, you can't sleep on Kyle Noke's striking. I mean, he showcased some serious pop in that last fight against Soto that caught a lot of us by surprise. So in this fight, I see Kyle Noke doing enough on the feet, especially using that reach advantage. And then if it goes to the ground, Noke will definitely have the advantage, because Morono, while he has an active guard, he is on his back just about every time the fight goes to the canvas. So unless Morono clips him with something really heavy, because he does have some power, then I see Kyle Noke winning every aspect of this fight. I just think it's too much to ask of Morono on short notice to step in there and compete at a high level against somebody like Kyle Noke. So I'm definitely all aboard the Kyle Noke train on this fight. Now moving on to the main event of the preliminary card, we have a bantamweight contest featuring Michael McDonald, who is 16-3, and Masanori Kanehara, who is 25-12-5. Now, Nick, where did you open this fight, and how has the public shifted things so far?
Up in McDonald, minus 405 to come back on Kanhara, plus 285. And right now looking over at 5 dimes, it is actually McDonald minus 550 to come back on Kanhara is plus 425. So McDonald did get bet up. Not really that shocked by that. I mean, he's an extremely popular fighter, of course. Looking at his resume across the board, I mean, he lost to Brandao and he lost to Faber. Outside of that, he's really done extremely well through the UFC. Basically just torching people, knocking them out or submitting them along the way. So he is a finisher. He's a talented fighter. He's still only 24 years old. That's a crazy thing about McDonald. And he's making his return. He's been out since 2013 when he did lose to Faber by guillotine choke. So he's been out for over 2 years, but they are giving him a person in a spot that it would come back, get a successful win, and be a pretty solid one. Because Kanhara, in my opinion, is extremely underrated. I mean, his last fight against Yaya, he could have easily got the nod in that fight. I mean, it was competitive, definitely. It was close. So I can understand why the judges ended up giving it a split, but at the same time, Kanhara, I thought, should have won that fight. He beat Caceres as well. So there's a lot of good things to like about Kanhara. And I mean, throughout his career in Japan, he's faced some really good competition. And what you get in Kanhara is really, in my opinion, he's got a little bit of power in the feet. Now, he is hittable on the feet, though, and his chin is very suspect. So that's a concern with standing against a guy like McDonald for too long. But Kanhara is not bad on the feet overall. Minus, like I said, that defense and that chin. On the ground is where he excels, though. He's got sneaky good wrestling. He gets opposition. I mean, his grappling is really good. So he is going to be able to get some takedowns in this fight. McDonald has to be cautious here because if he's not careful and he's not able to get off his back, Kanhara might win this fight by decision. So it's sneaky. It's a sneaky good fight because I think that that's what comes into play here. Will McDonald be able to stay off his back long enough to win this fight? Because if he stays standing with Kanhara, I think he will put Kanhara out. And of course, McDonald has some good grappling even off his back. He's not the easiest guy to deal with, but Kanhara is a very game opponent, and I don't think he's going to get caught up in anything with Michael McDonald as far as submission goes. So I think Kanhara is going to look to take this fight to the ground and utilize his grappling and try to grind out McDonald along the way. But I think overall, McDonald's going to be able to stuff enough takedowns, and he will probably maintain this fight upright, and he should be a favorite. Now, 5-1 where the line is now, especially after a 2-year layoff, I don't necessarily agree with that. But at the same time, you look at Kanhara's chin, this is probably a good type of matchup because McDonald has that kind of special knockout power that doesn't take much when he lands. He's going to have a little bit of reach on this fight as well. And of course, he's coming in at a good spot where, you know, he gets back in the mix at 135 for sure because he is a very talented fighter. I'm sure the UFC and all the fans out there would like to see him get back on track as well. So hard to pick against McDonald in this fight, but as far as the bet goes, be cautious out there because, I mean, Kanhara does have a way to win this fight. Even if it is unlikely, I think he's still kind of dangerous for McDonald at this point. But I am going to pick McDonald to get the win.
Yeah, this is definitely a tricky matchup. I know McDonald's the huge favorite, and for a reason. I mean, the guy fought for the title. He was considered one of the top 2 or 3 fighters in the bantamweight division before his injuries. And Kanhara has a history of getting brutally knocked out. So if McDonald connects, Kanhara is going down for the count. It could be one of those highlight reel bantamweight knockouts. Now, on the other hand, McDonald is coming off of an over 2-year layoff. He's had multiple surgeries on his wrists and hands. He's been just out and about not really being able to compete. And Kanhara, meanwhile, has performed admirably in his 2 fights in the UFC. He could definitely be 2-0 if the judges had just barely sided with him in that split decision. And he clearly won against Alex Caceres, who is a very solid overall bantamweight. So if Kanhara is able to get his wrestling going, then McDonald could get himself in trouble. McDonald has been taken down plenty of times in the past. Brad Pickett took him down. Now, granted, McDonald locked on a triangle choke and submitted him, but he did get taken down in that fight. Uriah Faber knocked him down and then submitted him on the ground. So if Kanhara can get something going, then he could definitely win this fight. It's just all about whether or not Kanhara can get the takedowns, avoid the submissions, and stay there. Now, I'm not quite convinced it's going to happen. I think most of the time when McDonald gets taken down, it's he either got hurt on the feet or he was overzealous after hurting his opponent on the feet. And I don't see Kanhara hurting McDonald on the feet. He's just not good enough technically in the stand-up. So I expect McDonald to use that 3-inch reach and connect. He has some of the biggest power in the bantamweight division. I mean, he almost knocked out Hayden Brown when he fought for the title. So I expect McDonald to go out there and come back in good form. He might be a little bit rusty after such a long layoff, but still, the guy's only 24 years old. So the younger you are, the easier it is to shake off the rust, and I think he shakes it off, and I think he, at some point, puts Kanehara away. So my pick is going to be Michael McDonald. Now, kicking off the pay-per-view main card is a lightweight contest between Abel Trujillo, who is 12-7 with 1 no contest, and Tony Sims, who is 12-3. Now, Nick, what's the MMA oddsmaker's perspective on this one?
I opened Trujillo -135, the comeback on Sims -105. The line right now has flipped. It's been going back and forth, flipping back and forth actually, so it depends what time and what day you see the line. But right now, I guess for the last couple of days it's stayed that Sims is a favorite. He's -125 right now. The comeback on Trujillo is +105. Wouldn't be shocked at all to see this line flip back though. There is two-way support, strong two-way support, and strong two-way opinion on this fight as well. This is a good fight because somebody's getting knocked out. I think there's no doubt about that. I mean, Sims, in my opinion, has looked really good overall. I know that his last fight was pretty tough. I mean, facing a grappler, I thought he would actually fare a little bit better in that fight against Aubin Mercier, but you got to credit Mercier. I mean, he was ready. He stuck to his game plan. He was able to be successful in that spot. But Trujillo, even though he has good wrestling, that's not his game plan typically, and that's not what he's going to do in this fight. So I think Sims, in most cases against other strikers, will be successful. I mean, even if you look at his debut fight against Montgomery, that was on short notice. I know he got clipped and rocked a little bit in that fight because Montgomery is just huge. He's a tall guy. So it is possible Trujillo hits hard. But, I mean, against other strikers, Sims seems to be okay. And I think his takedown defense overall is good enough that Trujillo is not going to be able to keep him down and control him on the ground either, even though Trujillo is, like I said, a little bit stronger. And he does have some underrated wrestling in that regard. It's what Sims has to worry about. Trujillo is a beast, man. I mean, the guy is capable of knocking out any lightweight. I mean, he's got some quality wins along the way. He's going to be hungry coming back off that kind of controversial loss to Tibau in his last fight, and he's capable of putting people out. So it really, in my opinion, Trujillo's worst flaw right now is that cardio. I know he's training hard at Black Zillions. He's got a good camp behind him, but he does tend to slow down. He's so aggressive at times that it takes a toll on him as the fight goes. So I think overall, I'm a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more confident in Sims. I think he's a little bit more technically sound. I think he's going to have a little bit more overall skill set, and I think he's going to have the better cardio. So I think that what we're going to see here is a firefight right away. And if Trujillo is unable to get rid of Sims early, I think Sims is going to actually get rid of Trujillo and probably finish him at some point. So I am leaning towards Sims. I think that Sims again is the better fighter. And this fight, if he can weather the early storm and not get clipped, like I said, I think it's actually a great fight for him, and he come away with a W. So I'm going to go his way.
Yeah, this is a tricky fight because Abel Trujillo is the more powerful striker, the more explosive fighter, and Tony Sims, on the other hand, is a little bit more well-rounded and more measured with his approach. I mean, you know what you're getting with Abel Trujillo. He is a guy that is going to try to knock your block off from the opening seconds of the fight. And if Tony Sims can weather that storm, then he probably will win a decision or potentially get a finish as this fight wears on. Now, if he's not able to do that, Trujillo could just truck him and put him out quickly. I mean, it's just all about whether or not Tony Sims can avoid those big monster shots that Trujillo is going to be throwing at him. I mean, because Trujillo is pretty predictable. And something else that's important is Trujillo's takedown defense is not very good. Now, Sims isn't an amazing wrestler, as showcased in his last fight where he got taken down a lot by Aubin Mercier. But if Sims wants to employ some takedowns, I think he could get them going, and that could take Trujillo out of his game. So it's just all about whether or not Sims can have that measured approach and he can avoid those, just power strikes from Trujillo. Because if you get into a firefight with Trujillo, you're just asking for trouble. I mean, just ask Jamie Varner. So that being said, I think Tony Sims is a good enough fighter and a technical enough striker with good enough defense that he can avoid getting himself in trouble. He's a little bit taller than Trujillo, so he might be able to employ a little bit of that size advantage and go out there and just not get hurt and then just weather that storm and either pick up the decision late as Trujillo fades or put him away. I mean, we've seen multiple fighters finish Abel Trujillo after that early explosion. So I'm going to side with Tony Sims, but I'm not crazy confident because you just never know what to expect if Trujillo is able to get that big early finish. But my pick is Tony Sims. Now dropping down to the featherweight division, we have Diego Brandao, who is 24-10, taking on Brian Ortega, who is 9-0 with 1 no contest. Now, Nick, where did you open this fight, and how has the public shifted things so far?
I opened Ortega minus 185, the comeback on Brandao plus 145. Right now it is Ortega minus 230, the comeback on Brandao is plus 190. So a little bit more action coming in on Ortega. Again, there is two-way action though, because the lines have been kind of bouncing around overall as well. So there is two-way support coming in on this fight, but it's settling at around 2-1 or over across the board. It looks like there's some 202s out there. So anywhere between 2 to 230 right now you're going to see for Ortega. And I do think he should be favored. I mean, Brandao has the potential and has a skill set to cause problems to anybody at 145. I mean, it's just unfortunate again with Brandao because I think his conditioning does plague him at times. I think his chin is definitely a concern as well. He's been knocked out 6 times throughout his career, but offensively, I mean, the guy has some good knockout power in the feet. He's got that killer instinct. He's got good underrated wrestling and he's got a good submission game. So he's a problem for most people at 145. I think Ortega though is kind of going to be a problem for him as well. I think Ortega, he's coming in right now with a little bit of confidence. I know that fight with Tavares was extremely close, and if he hit the scorecards, it looked like he was probably going to win as far as what the judges had, but a lot of people did have Tavares winning the first couple rounds because he was able to get Ortega on his back and control him a little bit there. So if that's the case, Brandao follows that same pattern, Ortega might have a little bit of problems. But the thing that I like about Ortega is even if you do put him on his back, I mean, the guy's rubber guard is sick. I mean, his ground game off his back, he's just sick, period. I mean, you can't control him comfortably without getting hit with shots with his elbows. I mean, he could bust you up even from his back. He could try to submit you. He could reverse things. He can end up on top. He's just a handful to deal with on the ground. Then on the feet, you notice he is getting better and better as well. I think Brandao ultimately has the overall advantage standing, but Ortega is going to have a little bit of reach here in this spot as well. And I think that he is going to be able to hang enough with Brandao. And again, that suspect Jim Brandao, I really don't trust. So I don't expect Ortega to knock Brandao out, but you never know. I mean, things crazier have happened. So I'm expecting this fight to be a crazy one. I think it's going to take place in all areas. I think Brandao is going to probably look for some takedowns here, but I think he's going to get beat up regardless of where the fight takes place. So I think Ortega is going to win over the judges, at least on the scorecards, or if Brandao fades bad enough. I mean, he's a little bit inconsistent with that. I know that he's been able to go 3 rounds and perform okay as well, but I think Ortega, if he busts him up long enough or enough, he's going to actually be able to finish him along the way if Brandao does tire it. Or again, I think that Ortega can win on the scorecards as well. So I'm going to pick Ortega to win this fight. I think there's a lot more upside for him. Again, he's relatively young as well, training at a good camp in Black House. He's only going to get better at age 24. I just think that it's kind of uphill for him, and Brandao, we're just not sure at the moment. I think there's more of a decline spot potentially coming for Brandao. So my confidence is a little bit more on Ortega in this spot.
I'm going to come in the other way. If you watched Ortega's last fight, you saw that he got repeatedly put on his back. He wasn't a terrific stand-up fighter, although he did land a few big shots against Tavares. And honestly, Diego Brandao, that kind of plays right into his game. Brandao is going to be looking to get right in Ortega's face on the feet, and Brandao is going to be looking for takedowns. And Ortega is a little too willing to give up the takedown and a little too comfortable off of his back. Now, on his back, Ortega does have a very active guard. He hunts for submissions. He occasionally will look for sweeps, although he waits quite a while to hunt for the sweep. Like, he'll just let his opponent be on top of him for 2 minutes before he even works for it. So I can see Diego Brandao using that to his advantage. As you saw in Brandao's last fight, I mean, he went in there, he didn't waste any time against Kikuno, and he just put his lights out very quickly. It was a very impressive performance, and honestly, he might be able to do that against Ortega. Ortega is a little bit of a slow starter at times, and I can see Brandao just getting right in his face and landing big shots. Now, obviously, Ortega is dangerous. He's constantly active. When he's on his back, he's still throwing elbows at his opponent's head. He busted open Tavares actually pretty impressively from his back, even if he was on his back for a majority of the first 2 rounds of that fight. And he could do the same thing to Brandao. Now, the big thing here, though, is I just think Brandao's aggression and the fact that Brandao is a competent ground fighter in his own right should keep him safe against Ortega. Unless Ortega lands a big shot on the feet, or unless Ortega does something crazy on the ground then I see Diego Brandao either winning a decision here or potentially finishing Ortega with a knockout at some point. So I think this is Brandao's fight to lose, and I'm picking him for the upset. So my pick is Diego Brandao. Now moving up to the welterweight division, we have Lorenz Larkin, who is 16-4 with 1 no contest, taking on Albert Tumenov, who is 16-2. Now, Nick, what's the MMA oddsmaker's perspective on this one?
I opened Tumenov minus 245, the comeback on Larkin plus 175. Right now it's Tumenov minus 240, Larkin is plus 200. And again, this line did bounce up and down a little bit, two-way action coming in and two-way opinion coming in on this fight as well. A lot of strong opinion out there because what you have here is just a fantastic fight between two warriors, man. Two guys that are going to come and stand and bang with good technique, with power. It should be a fun fight regardless. I mean, both these guys definitely come to fight and, it should be definitely entertaining. And I think what you're going to see here is, I mean, Larkin has a lot of physical tools. He's got the athleticism. He's got speed. He's got power. He's got awesome striking, fun to watch. My concern here for Larkin is Tumenov is just a sniper. He's got nasty knockout power. He's got great accuracy. He's got a pretty tough chin. And Larkin, if anything, not matching up to Tumenov, it's that factor right there. I think his chin really doesn't add up. I mean, Tumenov can dish it out and he could take it. I think as Larkin can definitely dish it out, but at times he hasn't been able to show that he can actually take it. He gets wobbled. He's been knocked out before in the past as well. Now I know at 170, it's a different ball game. He's looked good. He's able to make the weight cut. He hasn't had too many issues, and he's coming off of a pretty impressive win, especially right now. I mean, the way Ponzinibbio performed his last fight over Ponzinibbio. So Larkin at 170 looks good. He's going to be a tough out, but I just think that what you're going to see here is a striker versus striker type of contest. Both these guys have good enough takedown defense that they should kind of neutralize each other out on the ground. So we are going to see two strikers that are elite at what they do go at it here. And I just think Tumenov has the better chin and he's probably going to be the last one standing here. So that's why I'm going to go his way. So my official pick is Tumenov to defeat Larkin and probably by KO along the way. If he hits the scorecards, I think it's going to be an ultra competitive fight, but I still lean Tumenov there as well.
This one's pretty straightforward. Both of these guys are going to look to stand and bang, and Lorenz Larkin is a little bit quicker, a little bit more explosive and dynamic with his striking. But Albert Tumenov is also a diverse striker with insane power. And the other big difference between them is the fact that Larkin has been knocked out twice before, and Tumenov has shown a granite chin so far, and his defense is actually very solid. He's a great counter striker. Now, with how these guys match up, Tumenov throws good combinations. I really love those head kicks that he is very sneakily able to land. I mean, you see it time and time again. The fact that he can get his legs so high so quickly. I mean, the Matt Dwyer fight, that guy was 6'4", and Tumenov kicked him in the head twice. And that just shows you that he can kick anybody in the division in the head and hurt them badly. And Tumenov's fists have a ton of power as well. I mean, he puts out just about everybody that he gets in there with. Larkin has shown some serious improvements since dropping down to the welterweight division. He's had some very impressive performances against the likes of John Howard, and then most recently in his fight with Ponzinibbio. But Albert Tumenov is a whole nother beast. I think that if Larkin uses that balls to the wall style that he's brought for his last two fights, he's just going to be asking to get completely knocked out cold. And honestly, I just think Tumenov is going to be a little bit too much for him. Larkin could outwork Tumenov if he changes up his style a little bit and tries to work from the outside and, picks his spots. But that's not the way he's been fighting lately, and I think that Tumenov catches him at some point and puts him out. So my pick is going to be Albert Tumenov. Now moving up to the heavyweight division for the co-main event of the evening, we have Stipe Miocic, who is 13-2, taking on Andrei Arlovski, who is 25-10 with 1 no contest. Now, Nick, where did you open this fight, and how has the public shifted things so far?
I opened Miocic minus 265, the comeback on Arlovski plus 185. Right now it's minus 230 for Miocic and plus 190 for Arlovski. So line margins kind of tighten up a little bit. Two-way action again on this fight. A little bit more split opinions out there as well because you got two basically quality heavyweights going at it. I mean, Arlovsky, it's shocking what he's been able to accomplish recently in his UFC run. Impressive to say the least because, I mean, the guy's 36 years old, but in fight years, he's way beyond that. I mean, he obviously held the UFC title way back when, but he was a heck of a champion back in the day and now making another run in the UFC and climbing to the top in title contention because realistically, the winner of this fight should get a shot at the title. And I think both these guys would be deserving, whoever does come out on top here. But it's just amazing in my mind. I mean, seeing Arlovsky get back to this spot. Now, he's had some sketchy performances on the way up there, though. I mean, his last fight against Mir was pretty close. I think his performance against Travis Brown recently was the performance that really impressed me more than anything else. So you got to give him credit for that because Brown is definitely not an easy out. And, you know, being able to win the amount of fights in a row that he's won is impressive. I believe it's 6 fights in a row. So, I mean, and most of those being in the UFC. So that is impressive for Arlovsky. Now he's fighting a guy in Miocic that's very capable of pulling off the win. That's why he's favored in this fight as well, because he's got a well-rounded skill set in his own right. He's got good wrestling. He's got good cardio. He's showing improvements along the way. There was a lot of question marks with Stipe, in my opinion, but he's starting to prove, I mean, some of the doubters, and he's starting to answer some of those questions. And one of them was his cardio. I mean, he showed that even in his last fight with Mark Hunt, his fight with Dos Santos before that he's able to go to 5 rounds. I know he does gas a little bit as the fight goes, but he looked better actually in his second 5-round stand against Mark Hunt. He put a beating on Hunt. So he's coming off of a very, impressive win. And he's actually faced some pretty decent competition along the way, and he's looked pretty good. I mean, that Junior Dos Santos fight, even though Stipe lost that fight, that was close. I mean, he was really close of getting the nod there, of basically pushing forward, putting that foot on the gas a little bit more, and he probably would have won that fight. Despite JDS actually going out there and getting knocked out by Overeem at this point, I know JDS might be on a decline, but still, I mean, fighting at the top tier of the UFC division and improving each fight, you got to give Miocic a lot of credit. So this is going to be interesting. I do think that Miocic, honestly, is a better fighter here. I think he's obviously a little bit younger, and I think he's a little bit fresher overall as far as MMA fight years goes. I trust his chin a lot more. I know he's been knocked out in that Struve fight. It's still kind of a questionable spot or a bad spot for Miocic, but he hasn't looked like that fighter ever since that spot. So I do trust Stipe's chin a little bit more than Arlovsky, and I do think that he can at least outpoint Arlovsky. I think in a 3-round fight, which this is, he's going to be the one that's pushing the higher pace. He should be able to get a takedown or two along the way if he wants, or just his footwork and his movement is going to give Arlovsky a little bit of problems on the feet. But Miocic definitely has to be careful because Arlovsky has a tremendous amount of knockout power. That's what he's always been known throughout his career. He definitely has good skill on the feet, capable of knocking most heavyweights out. He's coming from a great camp in Jackson's. They really mentally, physically have put Arlovsky in a good space, good place, and right now in a good position. That's why he's able to make this run that he has. So not an easy fight for Miocic, but I do think Stipe comes away with a win here. He is a better fighter, and I think it's his fight to win or lose, so I'm going to pick Stipe to win this fight.
This is a very competitive fight. Now, on paper, Stipe Miocic, Andrei Arlovsky, they're the same height. Miocic has a little bit of reach, and they're about the same weight, so neither guy has a huge physical advantage, although Miocic, if he's able to pump out the jab, he could keep Arlovsky at bay a little bit. Arlovsky is a bit of a mystery. I mean, at times he's extremely aggressive, like in the Travis Brown fight. At other times, he just kind of sits back and lets the fight happen, like in the Brandon Schaub and the Frank Mir fights, which were very ugly, and honestly, they were up in the air a little bit at times. So Miocic, I think, really needs to set the tone with this fight. What he does really well is he will throw combinations on the feet, and then he will end the combination by pushing his opponent into the fence and looking for a takedown. And that just forces his opponent to constantly be on the defensive. It really worked well in the Mark Hunt fight, where he was able to back Hunt into the wall repeatedly and then get takedowns and then just batter him on the canvas. It worked in the Dos Santos fight, which was extremely competitive. So there's no doubt that it probably will work against Andrei Arlovsky. He has had issues getting pushed around in the fence a little bit, as evidenced by his first fight against Bigfoot Silva. Or even the Cartana fight, where he just got stuck against the fence and then just ate some big combinations and got put out. So if Miocic is able to bully Arlovsky a little bit, then he's going to be in great shape. It's just all about whether or not Arlovsky will allow that to happen. Now, Arlovsky does have a lot of power. He mixes it up pretty well. He's got heavy leg kicks if he wants to throw them. Sometimes he just kind of sits back and focuses entirely on his punching, though. And his punches do have some serious pop. I mean, he put out Bigfoot. He put out, he dropped Travis Brown multiple times. So he definitely still is extremely dangerous on the feet. So Miocic will have to be on guard. Miocic has been knocked out before, but hell, Andrei Arlovski has been knocked out way more times than Miocic. So if Miocic is able to get things going on the feet, he could potentially put Arlovski out cold and earn that title shot. Now, another thing to really pay attention to is the fact that Stipe Miocic pulled out of his last fight. He had an injury. He was preparing to fight Ben Rothwell, had to back out of that fight, and then this is a pretty quick turnaround from an injury to be taking on a guy of Andrei Arlovski's caliber. It's about actually the same turnaround that Duffy had after his concussion to be facing Poirier, because they were both going to be on the same event. But that being said, I still think that Stipe Miocic is at the better position in his career, and he is fighting at a higher level right now than Andrei Arlovski. So as long as Miocic avoids running out of steam or making a big mistake and getting clipped, then I think he can control the pace of this fight and either win a decision or potentially knock out Andrei Arlovski. So my pick is going to be Stipe Miocic. Now moving on to the main event of the evening, we have a UFC welterweight title fight between champion Robbie Lawler, who is 26-10 with 1 no contest, taking on former interim champ Carlos Condit, who is 30-8. Now, Nick, what's the MMA oddsmaker's perspective on this one?
I've been Lawler minus 135, the comeback in Condit minus 105. Right now, it is currently minus 110 either way. So pick 'em, and it is a pick 'em type of fight. Even with my original opener, honestly, slightly leaning towards Lawler. With all due respect, I mean, what the guy's been able to accomplish recently as well. I mean, the guy's a warrior. He's one of my all-time favorite fighters because he's been around for so long, and he had to put the work in and kind of get where he is today through improvement and through just doing things the right way and putting the time. So Lawler is a tremendous role model for all fighters to kind of look at and see, throughout his career. If you really want to accomplish something, you stick to it, you put the work in, and it could possibly be done, especially if you have the skill set or the physical athleticism to go along with it that Lawler does. And then the training regimen. And now he's with American Top Team. They've done wonders for his career as well. And then the wins he's been able to pull off. I mean, that McDonald fight in his last fight, wow. I mean, a lot of people think that's the best fight they've ever seen. That was a war. I mean, beating Hendricks, arguably, I know it was a controversial type of close decision there too, but he had 2 really close calls against Johnny Hendricks, which is, stylistically, you would think a nightmare type of matchup for a guy like Lawler, but he was able to adapt and able to get in there. So he's faced a lot of good competition recently. He deserves to be where he's at. He deserves to wear that UFC strap at 170, and I'm happy for him. But he's facing another legit contender, and I guess that's the way it always should be, right? I mean, at 170 or any weight class in the UFC. I mean, the guys that you're fighting for the championship should be serious threats, and that's exactly what Carlos Condit is. I mean, another guy that's been around for a long time, former WEC champion, former dominant champion. I mean, he came over to the UFC with a lot of hype, a lot of recognition, a lot of respect, and he's proven that he belongs, and he's made a run for himself as well. I mean, his popularity amongst the fans is at an all-time high, and he deserves it. It's the way he fights. He's a warrior. The guy has skill on all ends. I mean, really, his kryptonite along the way has been getting put on his back and controlled against great wrestlers, like a guy like Johnny Hendricks, for example. But Lawler, that's not really the type of fighter he is. Although, I wouldn't be surprised if Lawler tries to mix in some takedowns along the way here, because I think that would actually be a smart game plan with a guy like Condit. But Condit's a very complete fighter. I mean, he has the capabilities of subbing people. He's got a really legit ground game. But more than that, I mean, he's just a warrior on the feet as well. So he comes at you with all sorts of unorthodox angles. I mean, his elbows are nasty. He's proven that even in his last fight against Alves. And that was amazing. Much respect for Condit for earning this shot. And stylistically, this is a great fight for him because he's not facing one of those wrestlers that's going to constantly try to take him down and control him. So this is going to be a war. This is a true pick-em type of fight because you have 2 outstanding strikers that are capable of ending things on the feet, that look forward to fighting in fights like this, that are going to give it their all and just slug it out. It may the best man standing win. I mean, the last guy that stands win. That's the type of fight it's going to be here. I do lean a little bit more towards Condit. I'm just afraid of all the wars that Lawler's recently had. I mean, he's had quite a few. He's taken a beating. And I think that, again, in fight years, I know that Condit is up there in fight years as well, but the competition level that Lawler's recently faced, I think Condit, even though he was injured and on the shelf for a while, I think he's going to be a little bit fresher coming into the fight than Lawler. I know that there's been some time in between as well, but I don't know. I think if any edge at all, you give it to Condit right now at this spot because of what I just said, basically. I know that Lawler could implement a good game plan and get some takedowns along the way. I just don't think he's going to be able to keep Condit there. And on the feet, I do give a slight advantage towards Condit. Now, again, not pure knockout power because Lawler can end anybody's night, but I think just the diverse striking skill set that Condit brings to the table here is going to probably cause Lawler some problems along the way. And if it hits the scorecards, we're going to see a really competitive decision. I think it'll go towards Condit. And if it ends inside, man, it could realistically go either way, but I'm going to lean towards Condit as well. So my official pick is going to be Carlos Condit becoming the new welterweight champion for the UFC. And that's kind of a surprise because, man, I love Robbie Lawler and everything he's about, but I have to go with my head here and it says Condit's going to pull off the win.
Yeah, this is one of the more competitive fights of the entire year, and we're just getting started. Robbie Lawler has a very aggressive style where he's very light on his feet and then wades into the pocket, and then he has great straight punches and some beautiful counter hooks and counter shovel punches and uppercuts. I mean, the guy just can crack. And he actually has some surprising kicks as well that he has caught his opponents off guard with. That being said, the pocket is owned by Carlos Condit because of that Muay Thai style that he loves to utilize. His elbows are probably the best in the welterweight division, even better than Matt Brown's. And if Robbie Lawler is going to hang around in the pocket all day, then he is going to be eating a steady stream of elbows from Carlos Condit. Condit sets his elbows up really well. He actually pretty much finished that fight against Thiago Alves with elbows. He set them up with punches and then just dove in with huge elbows and then put away Alves with some brutal elbows along the fence as well. So Robbie Lawler is going to have to be very careful in this fight. And that's just something that Carlos Condit is always capable of. I think another thing that Condit does extremely well is he just is very unpredictable at times. I mean, you would never expect some of these knockdowns that he's able to land because he disguises his attacks so well with combinations and then finishes them off with head kicks. And as you saw, Robbie Lawler is susceptible to head kicks. You just have to set them up well. And Condit does. I mean, Condit's head kick against George St. Pierre was a shocker that dropped him and almost finished the fight for him. And you saw Robbie Lawler get hurt badly by a head kick against Rory McDonald. So I think what's going to happen here is Robbie Lawler is going to try to work on the outside edges of the pocket with straight punches. He has a good jab. And Carlos Condit's going to try to land some nasty kicks from the outside and then elbows if it gets up close and personal. And if this fight goes to the ground, Condit has the better submission game, but Lawler is the better wrestler, and Condit gets taken down pretty easily. So if, for some reason, if Condit's getting the better on the feet, don't be shocked to see Robbie Lawler shoot in for a couple takedowns. Robbie Lawler could, as long as he avoids any submission trouble, he could win some points here just with top position. Now, one last thing to consider is all that damage that Nick mentioned that Robbie Lawler's been taking. I mean, he has been in some absolute slobber knockers with his fights against Johnny Hendricks, the battles against Rory McDonald, the fight against Matt Brown. I mean, he has taken a lot of damage recently, and that could really hurt him. And Carlos Condit, if he is able to accumulate some damage, and he definitely is capable of doing that, then he could potentially finish Robbie Lawler. I think Condit's chin is better between the two of them, and if they're trading punch for punch, then it could be Robbie Lawler that goes down, although you cannot deny Robbie Lawler's heart. But that being said, I think I agree with Nick. I think this is Carlos Condit's fight to win as long as he keeps this fight in his realm, which is either up close and personal or mixing in those combinations with the kicks. Then I can see Carlos Condit being crowned your new UFC welterweight champion, so I'm going to pick him. So that'll do it for our full event breakdown for UFC 195. Part 2 of the Premium Oddscast featuring our premium bets will be out this Friday following the UFC 195 weigh-ins, so stay tuned for that if you're an MMA Oddsbreaker Premium member. Also, if you'd like to become a premium member, just go to MMAOddsbreaker.com and you can sign up in the top right corner of our homepage for either Nick's or Mike James's premium bets. If we have a free play to give out, make sure to follow at MMAOB Premium on Twitter because that's where we'll post them first. We can also notify you of our free bets via email alert if you prefer that method. Just send an email to picks@MMAOddsbreaker.com and we'll add you to our free bet mailing list. Special thanks to our sponsor, 5 Times Sportsbook. Good luck, everyone, and hopefully the betting gods are on your side this weekend.